to the Edmonds Moms Room podcast. We are so excited to have a sleep coach with us today. Desiree Baird is a pediatric sleep coach. So she joins us. She is an expert, and it sounds like has been doing this for about 11 years. So would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. So unofficially, I've been doing it for 11 years, but officially, I got certified as a sleep consultant about 2.5 years ago.
Awesome.
And I'm a mom of 3. I have twin boy-girl twins. They just turned 11 in July, and then I have a 2-year-old. And I went for my certification because I didn't want the same thing to happen that happened when I had my twins, me being sleep deprived. And I actually went for my own self-benefit, but then I loved it so much and loved helping people that I decided to start my own company.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So you 11-year-old twins. Nice.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about that experience, and if you'll go back.
Had some problems getting pregnant and went through IVF. I love that there's medical help these days to do that. Was blessed right away, pregnant, first try with twins. My I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so I'm not from Seattle, but I've been here for almost 15 years. So I didn't have any support, and I was on bed rest from 26 weeks on.
Wow.
So I was at home on bed rest with the twins. It was a rough 11 weeks on bed rest, but it was well worth it. They were healthy as can be. And when I had them, I didn't have a chance to take any prenatal courses or any courses at all. I had no clue what labor was going to be like. I had no clue what it was like to have a baby because I couldn't take the bringing home baby classes or anything being on bed rest. Winging it, but not just winging it with one, but winging it with 2. So learning on the fly. Luckily, the first couple months, they were pretty good sleepers. And, waking up and feeding every 3 hours. But then around 4 months, the 4-month sleep regression hit in our house really hard. And I knew that and back then they didn't really talk about sleep 11 years ago. I would ask my pediatrician, they would just say put together routines, make sure you have safe sleep habits, but they didn't really go into detail with anything because that's not their expertise. That's not their focus. Nap when the baby's napping, but I had 2 babies that I needed to nap, and so I started reading a bunch of books, and so I self-educated myself on sleep. And the twins were sleeping through the night at 5 months.
Oh, wow.
So a month later, and they finally started taking better naps around 7 or 8 months. Naps were really tricky for me with the twins. But after tons of trial and error, I figured it out. And then with my last baby, who's now 2, I decided I needed to do something this time to be proactive. Because I knew there was more to it than just putting a baby down. There's sleep science, there's healthy sleep habits, there's great foundations you put in place. So it was more than just putting a baby down, trying to figure out, okay, you're tired.
Nice. So you got your certification.
Yes.
And by what age was this baby? You're 2-year-old now, but by what age were they sleep trained?
I actually didn't even have to sleep train him.
Okay.
So if you start with healthy foundations in the beginning, you don't even have to sleep train if you really get everything down in the very beginning. He was born early, premature, 5 weeks. So he was born May 3rd, and he was sleeping through the night before my birthday, so mid-September.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah.
So that's really neat to hear you say, because people are like, should I cry it out, or what method should I do? I mean, there's a million names of different methods, and there's so many things that
many
people
different methods
try and either fail or, internalize as not doing correctly, whatever the lingo is for that.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, if you start from the beginning, you really don't even have to have.
If you get the education
cool.
up front and set those foundations in place, and there's lots of things that happen with foundations. It's not just room environment, but it's also wake windows, routines, making sure you're having a white noise machine, different things you need. If you have everything in place in the beginning, you're setting yourself up for success. There's less chance of you needing to sleep train because you're setting expectations up front for your baby and doing healthy sleep habits.
At what point should moms, pregnant moms or postpartum, at what stage in the game would they start working with you?
So I have people that work with me in their last trimester just to get the sleep education, all the way to, I just finished a 4-year-old.
Okay.
So it just depends, what type of personality you are. If you're a go-getter and you want things to fall into place right from the very beginning, call me earlier the better, right? Because then you can set those foundations early. But if you want to take it upon yourself and you find that your child is 5 or 6 months old, you need more help, I'm there to help support moms and find the right method at that point in time.
Interesting. Yeah, so that kind of brings me, you said sleep regression at one point.
Yes.
So are there certain times where do you use the word sleep train? Is that appropriate?
It is appropriate, but I just don't like it. It sounds to me like like you're training an animal.
Okay.
And to me, it's babies. So
Yeah.
I like to say that I'm helping to teach your little one how to fall asleep independently. It's a nicer way of saying sleep training. I don't know. I just don't like the word training.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just not my style.
Yeah. Okay. So if you get a sleep regression, or I mean, even when I had my second, my daughter, who was almost 2, like kind of fell out of her healthy sleep patterns, and we struggled until really recently, and now she is 4 now.
Oh wow. Okay.
So, and we kind of got a little lazy on it, to be honest. We just weren't as strict with her bedtime rules as we could have been. So I'm just curious, and so I always feel like you just have to continually I call it sleep trained, right?
Yeah.
So is that something you find, or is that a common experience of other people?
So true sleep regressions only happen during certain times. So 4 months of age, 8-9 months of age, and it's usually regards to milestones.
Okay.
Or because your child needs less day sleep, so maybe an adjustment to their schedule. So 4 months, 8 to 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, and then 2 years.
Okay.
The regressions that happen afterwards are usually behavioral. It's not due to milestones, or it's not due to their schedule or something being off. It's more behavioral regressions at that point in time. And like you said, it's more parents sticking to their guns and putting those rules back into place.
Yeah.
But you might have to get creative with those rules when you're working with a toddler.
Yeah.
And it also depends on what the family wants. Some families are okay with just bending the rules. But then it gets to the point where maybe things are out of control, and it's snowballed so much that mom or dad will come to me and say, our 4-year-old isn't going to sleep until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and we know this isn't healthy anymore. Can you help us? So true regressions. Regressions is a word, but there's true regressions, and then there's behavioral regressions. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Interesting. And you help with everything.
Yes.
Cool. I didn't know there was actual behavioral regressions.
Yep. So around 2.5, anything. If everything's in place the way it should be. If you had a great sleeper, usually it's behavioral at that point in time. So it's not usually related to their day schedule. It's not really related to sleep props. As long as those are already completely eliminated, then it's usually a behavioral thing. Yeah. Toddlers are always testing their parents, and they have. They want to have a choice, and they are learning the roles and consequences, and they want to take control, right?
Totally. Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So I'm going a little off topic.
That's okay, because I just got back from the East Coast. I'm from Pittsburgh, and my 2-year-old, when we were there, I had a co-sleep with him. Wasn't my desired thing, but I knew that he wasn't sleeping well there. And when I came home, it took 2 nights of breaking him and being very consistent again. And we're finally back on track, and it's been 10 days now. So took some time. And then we had also had a time change. So that was kind of tricky.
Yeah, that's like 3 hours, right? So
and he doesn't understand,
right.
Why am I going to bed now? Because he can't tell time. He doesn't understand.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, nightmares.
Yes.
So, do you mind diverting to that a little bit?
No problem. Yeah.
So, kids who have nightmares and kind of get out of the habit of, or they get scared in the middle of the night, or something. Something is suddenly waking them up. Someone who was sleep trained, and then they're having nightmares or crying fits, and maybe parents are attributing that to nightmares. What is your take on that?
Yeah. So nightmares usually don't occur until a child's between 2.5 when they're starting to have an imagination. So when someone comes to me, sometimes I'll have parents come to me with a 9-month-old and say they think they're having nightmares, and I know that's not developmentally true. So I have to really figure out what's going on there. It's usually overtiredness. But with a 2 or 4-year-old or 3-year-old, for example, what I do is I dive in to find out more. Is it a nightmare? Is it night terrors? What does their day look like? Are they still napping? Has there been any big changes in their life? Is there a new baby? Is there a move? What are they complaining about? Are they complaining about monsters in the room? Are they complaining about mommy not being around too much? Maybe they're complaining about, I had someone complain about a giraffe in the closet. So we, they're all very unique situations. So what I do is I dive in to learn more, because it could be that if a toddler is complaining about, monsters, for example, I'll give parents tactics to work on that, but I'll evaluate everything as a whole. So I take a holistic approach, and I look at that child's day if they are still napping, because they might be waking up at the same time every night because maybe their body is going down in an overtired state. And so they're waking up. And what happens is if you're going in an overtired state, adrenaline and cortisol is built up in your system. And maybe your child goes to sleep very easily, but since that was already built in your system, they're wide awake when they wake up. And then maybe they think they're having a nightmare, or maybe they're scared of something in the closet because of their imagination. So then I'll work with parents to, one, try to eliminate that night waking, and then two, how to address it whenever they're complaining about nightmares.
Yeah, interesting.
So, yeah. Cool. I also have to make sure it's not night terrors, because night terrors is a whole different animal. Night terrors is usually caused in the first 3 hours after our little one goes to sleep. And it's truly scary. I've witnessed night terrors. The child doesn't remember the next day what's happening. They wake up, they're screaming frantically, yelling, out of control. And it's scary for parents, too, because the parents might be trying to talk to the child, but the child isn't responding to them. And that usually happens because a child is overtired. So that's very common in 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, that parents think that they don't need a nap anymore, where they do need a nap. The parents just can't see what's going on in the body chemistry with the hormones that are fighting sleep, and that's what causes those night terrors typically.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I've heard parents say they call 911 like during those situations.
They're scary.
Yeah.
And then the next day when you ask your child, do you remember what happened? They usually don't.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that sounds awful.
It's the brain that's controlling that.
Yeah, scary.
It is scary.
So you can help people that are experiencing that.
Yeah.
Cool. Back infant sleep. As far as nutrition and maybe for breastfed babies, does it matter the mom's nutrition?
So sometimes what I've been finding lately, it seems like there's a lot of elimination diets going on with breastfeeding because maybe baby's having eczema or maybe baby's having a very gassy and not settling very, very good. So that can cause some problems with sleep. If you're not working on figuring out what's causing the gas or causing the eczema or causing what's problematic from the breast milk. What's most important, though, is actually doing healthy breastfeeding habits where you're not feeding your baby to sleep.
Okay.
So that's probably the most important thing, is making sure that you're separating feeding from sleeping. They're two different activities. You probably heard the old wives' tale that a breastfed baby will wake up more at nighttime because of the breast milk being digested faster, which actually isn't true. There was a lactation consultant. There was a study released recently that breastfed babies and formula-fed babies sleep the same amount of time.
Interesting.
If healthy habits are put in place.
Yeah.
It's very common for breastfed babies to find comfort with the breast, obviously, and being with their mom. And a lot of moms do breastfeed to sleep, and that actually ends up what causes more of the problems with sleep in breastfed babies.
I can see that.
That's where you're finding more of the problems, is whenever you're using it all the time to settle the baby down.
Right. Okay. More behavioral, like training.
Yeah, you're training them to, their lovey becomes your breast, which is very common.
Yeah.
And then what happens is after 6-7 months of this, mom's not getting sleep, baby's waking up every 2 hours, needing to breastfeed to sleep again. So it's not the nutrition, it's just that the baby's using you as a sleep prop.
Yeah. So these are the patterns that you see frequently with
breast. When it's time for baby to feed and time for baby to sleep, it should be completely separate activities. So I recommend that moms actually breastfeed out in the open, like in the living room, in a bright lit room, not in the baby's room.
Nice.
And always keeping it, so if their bedtime routine involves breastfeeding, which typically does, do it out in the living room. Then go in, change your diaper, put on their pajamas, read a book or sing a song, and then put them to bed. So you're completely keeping them separate.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's a great tip.
Yeah.
I'm sure that will help a lot of people. One more ask on the nutritional stuff. So a mom who's drinking caffeine, or does caffeine in breast milk affect infant sleep?
So I'm not a lactation specialist.
Yeah,
I do believe that there might be some traces of caffeine. I've heard two different things. I've heard that there is, and I also heard there isn't. So I'm really not sure what the answer is for that one. My concern is basically babies are being fed a certain amount of times during a day. If we find that baby's wired, then we'll look into seeing what the mom's diet is at that point in time. And then I would recommend eliminating certain things like dark chocolate and, caffeine type products. But I don't know for sure if that's what can cause it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Give us some stuff that you want to share, something I haven't asked that you really think is important that all moms should really know.
Sure. So there's a couple of things. One, I think that a lot of moms feel that it's a badge of honor to wake up every night and constantly deal with sleep deprivation. I'm seeing a lot of memes about it that's funny, and so people are making jokes out about it whenever really they should go to their village, go to people like me, go to their support system, and work on better sleep habits for their baby. Because ultimately it makes you a better mom if you get sleep as well. Yeah. So don't be scared to ask. Don't be scared to ask for help. That's why people like me are in this field. That's super important. Number two, whenever doing healthy habits for your child, make sure there's different things in place. There's pieces to the puzzle. It could be room environment. It could be sleep props. It could be wake windows, which is the time that baby's up between naps. It could be not enough day sleep. It could be too much day sleep. So you got to look at everything holistically to make sure that you are setting the right foundations down for your little one. And also, I'm not saying stay home all the time, but there's like an 80-20 rule. Like 80% of the time, be home so that baby can sleep in their own environment, so they can associate their crib or their bassinet or wherever you want them to sleep long term with that space. But of course, be flexible. 20% of the time, they can do a car nap. They can do baby wear. Actually recommend baby wear in the first couple months. But once baby's old enough to be sleeping in their crib, like 4 or 5 months old, then be more flexible, but be realistic. Like, know that if you continue to be on the go with your child, they're only going to learn how to nap on the go, and they might be short naps all the time versus being home and actually setting those foundations.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people struggle with it because it feels like nap drill, like you're home a lot. But those phases go by so fast, as you know, as a fellow mom. I mean, these are just seasons of your life, right? So, like, the 3 naps may only last 3 months, which seems like eternity, but it really isn't. So you can either put sleep first, your child sleep first, or yourself and your errands and everything else first. So you can't have both, basically.
Yeah. That's good to keep in mind and important.
Yeah.
Because I think as a mom, especially a new mom, you're trying to balance everything and still have the house together and care for,
I tell a lot of twin moms, I said, if you can get a break, have someone come over during one of the naps so you can get out for a little bit. I naturally work with a lot of twin moms since I'm a twin mom. I know a lot of tricks of the trade and how to troubleshoot 2 babies at the same time. So, I tell a lot of twin moms because they feel very stuck in the home a lot, I give them more flexibility. Go out for that stroller walk, let the baby sleep. Hire a mother's helper, so that you can get out a little bit. It's okay. Your babies are still going to be there. It's okay if they're home napping. You're not neglecting them. That's what they need right now. They need to sleep and eat so that they grow. Yeah. So I think a lot of moms feel guilty taking time away from their little one. Meanwhile, they need to sleep. It's okay. It's okay to take care of yourself, too.
Right. And so necessary.
Yeah.
You can only sustain that for so long, right?
Yeah.
So as far as sleep training,
it's okay.
You add I'm hesitating to say that word. So as far as that goes, like, good foundations from the beginning, someone can start working with you from day one. When is the time that you're like, good solid sleep should be in place by end date?
4 months.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's
and
great.
You can say sleep education. So instead of sleep training, making sure that you have the proper sleep education so that you can, instill all these good habits on your child. By 4 months, you should have everything. You should be eliminating sleep props at that point in time and making sure that you're home more so your little one is not sleeping on the go constantly.
Cool. And does that mean like sleeping through the night?
No. Sleeping through the night could be anywhere between, I've seen it as little as 8 weeks, which is not the norm, up until 9 months. Okay. 9 months is when your little one should be sleeping through the night. Awesome. Or has the capability to sleep through the night. Okay. Unless there's a medical problem. Obviously, there might be, maybe your child was born 10 weeks early, so it's always by corrected age as well. So 9 months corrected age also has the clearance from their pediatrician, then they should be able to sleep through the night. Cool.
So, like, do you want to get controversial for a second? Like,
sure.
Because a lot of moms, and I see it on different Facebook groups too, are always like, should we do the cry it out method? And there's so many different names for the cry it out method. Do you have a school of thought?
Yeah, I do. Okay. So I'm not pro cry it out. In certain situations, I do recommend Ferber method, which is a form of cry it out. It's controlled crying. But I don't always start there. It depends what the goals are of the parents. So I believe in actually combining approaches a lot. That's what I did with my own children. A child with any type of sleep training method or teaching your little one to fall asleep, if you're getting rid of bad habits, they're going to cry. I just had a consult earlier today. I told them all, I can't promise against no tears. That's just not possible. You've been doing this for 6 months. When you make a change, your little one's going to dislike it. Even if you take the most gentle method possible, which is being in the same room as your child, there's going to be tears involved. You're making a change. It's like they're so used to something and you're changing something, so you're going to deal with some tears in the process. My role as a sleep coach is to go over different methods with you and maybe combining some approaches and then making sure that you're consistent and staying with it. Because I have a lot of parents that try something for 3 days. They go, this isn't working. And I said, well, it's not going to take 3 days. It's going to take 2-3 weeks. That's why my packages, when I work with people, I work with them for 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks at a time, so that we can break it down week by week and start on small goals and then build upon those goals. That's how I believe in things, is that you start small and then you build upon it 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 until you get to the final result. So, yeah.
And then do you feel like, okay, people work with you maybe for a month, because that seems like, that actually seems like a short amount of time. So I'm like, okay, that's not bad at all. Work for you for a month. And then do they like come back and like check back in a couple months, or is that?
So all of my packages actually, which is unusual, but I myself did it. I did it with a colleague of mine that's in Connecticut. She and I went through our certification together, and I kept on telling her, I felt like I had people that were, they might have just like a stray question 2 weeks later, like, hey, this came up, what do you think? And to avoid that, but to be there to support parents, we created a post-support group.
Oh, cool.
So once you work with me, you graduate to something called the Sleep Elite Club. And myself and my colleague Casey, she works at a company called Discover and Dream. She started her own with her twin sister. We are the moderators of the group. So you graduate in there for 3 months. So then you have post-support for 3 months.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is wonderful. And we have a lot of twin parents in there. We have a lot of singleton parents in there. We have parents of toddlers. We have parents of, newborns. We just felt like we would build this group of parents that we worked with, so they didn't feel like we had a breakup.
Yeah.
There's actually sleep consultants that only work with people for 1 week. That's very common. So my packages are like really long compared to them, plus the 3-month support as well.
Yeah.
Then at that point in time, people can renew it, or they don't have to. It's up to them, but at least they feel like they're getting, they're getting 4 months of working with us directly.
I feel like sleep is such a continuum
and
always changing, and so that's why you would want that support. I can't imagine 1 week and feeling like, oh, wham, bam, I'm good to go for the rest of my life with my child.
Many sleep consultants work that way, and I don't understand how they could even do that.
Yeah,
but I come from a corporate background where I've learned that with projects, you build upon projects, and I've kind of taken that approach with my sleeping as well. Is that we start small and then we just keep on building upon it, so that we're not doing everything at once, and we're doing it slowly, so it's less stress for the parents and less stress for the baby, which is overall less anxiety and less tears.
That's awesome. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So it's not a just jump in, do everything all at once kind of approach.
No.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's my approach. I don't know. There's lots of other approaches out there too, but that's my approach. Not jump in and do everything at once. We do everything in stages to make it obtainable.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So would you say, you kind of said like it'd be great to have a baby have healthy habits and like really have good sleep education by 4 months. Is there a certain age at which you're like, you cut it off? No longer accepting 11-year-olds, or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
it's never too late.
Okay.
Just the older your child gets, the harder it's going to get.
Yeah.
Harder meaning more protest, more fighting, more ability to throw things, get upset. Like a toddler that might have been doing something for 4 years straight, and all of a sudden you want to change things up on them. You're going to deal with a lot more behavioral problems at that point in time.
Yeah.
So it's never too late. It just might be a harder process mentally on the parents. Yeah.
Interesting. Any final thoughts that you want to share? How can people find you?
My website is pediatricsleepcoach.com.
Okay.
I have an Instagram. It's @the_sleepcoach.
Okay.
I also talks every third Thursday on Facebook, which we're transitioning, I think, to Instagram next month for the company Love the Dream. They're a swaddle company. Yeah. I teamed up with them because I used them for my last baby on my own because my baby didn't like being traditionally swaddled, and I found their product. I fell in love with it, and then now we're collaborating together. So I do these free talks every third Thursday for their followers. So you can find me there. Yeah, so you can find me on my website and Instagram and Facebook. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think this was so valuable, and I think a lot of moms will find this information empowering.
Yeah.
So they don't feel so lonely with the sleep and...
Yeah, and not feel that their little one should be sleeping through the night by 4 months. I work with parents that we will work on the healthy habits, but we might keep that one feeding still because their baby's only 6 months old and their baby needs it. Like if your baby, now we'll evaluate that. Like, is your baby doing this, this, and this? Yes. Well, then let's keep that feeding because he definitely needs that feeding. So we're not going to eliminate that. We're not going to let him cry it out and miss that feeding because he obviously needs it for nutritional value. Yeah. Don't feel that your baby should be following because every baby's very different in terms of what their needs are too.
That's cool. Yeah, I want to tell you my takeaway is I think everyone should work with a sleep coach because, and it's almost like the doctor should just like send you home. And I feel the same way about postpartum and prenatal physical therapy is like every single woman needs it, and it can enhance their life so much. And it's like, why aren't we sent home from the hospital
With
or
that
birth
information.
center or wherever you deliver, just being like given, hey, why don't you check in with a sleep coach? They can really teach you what's healthy for your baby in order for sleeping patterns and this whole like breast dissociation from sleeping. Like, if I would have known that with Chloe, my first, when I had her, like, that could have made a world of difference not making the sleep training so traumatic at the day we started, December 5th,
Yeah.
Like, so it's so good to hear you say that. So I really think everyone should just be seeing a sleep coach as part of infant care. And
I would love that. I mean, I would love if the hospitals offered some sort of classes. I've been trying to work with them on that stuff, but they just can't get the funding. So
it sounds so necessary because then when you probably get parents, everyone's at their wits' end,
exhausted.
Exhausted. Instead of being like, oh, let's just like make this a positive experience. We can start so it never gets to be this stressful, negative thing, And
arm you with the basics so that you know going into it, okay, we need to start doing this, this, and this. By 8 weeks, we know that we should start doing this. By 12 weeks, we should start really doing this, starting 1 nap a day at home. By 14 weeks, we should try this so that by 4 months, we should be at this point. Yes, there should definitely be something like that available, but that's what I'm here for.
It sounds like you have it.
Yeah.
So everyone just needs to know your resource, and I'm so glad you were here to share, and thank you for being here.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Yeah, what a pleasure.
The Edmonds Moms Room podcast is brought to you by Body Motion Physical Therapy. We help women through pregnancy and beyond so they can live active, confident, and healthy lives. We wanted to take a moment to say thank you for tuning in to the Edmonds Mom Room podcast. To keep up with our events, upcoming shows, and wellness newsletter, follow us at Body Motion PT on Instagram and Facebook, or head over to bodymotionpt.com.